بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will diverge slightly in today's class, beginning from the book of Imam al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayh, Da'wa al-Dawa, but diverging into the commentary on one hadith that is relevant in explaining an important concept, a concept many of you have asked about, and it is very intriguing, you know, when one tells you that your salvation is dependent on two elements, X and Z, but they don't tell you how to attain them, then that becomes problematic, right? So Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayh here, he says, أصل الشر من ضعف الإدراك وضعف النفس ودناءتها. The root of all evil comes from two things. Either the lack of realization, lack of comprehending situations, lack of understanding, lack of recognizing the truth, differentiating between the truth and falsehood, you know, lack of clarity basically. Right? So that's the first element. The second element, because all our motion in life is based on love, and that's why we spend some time speaking about love. And for you to love something over something else, so you like to do a sin, but your love for the salvation on the Day of Judgment, for example, that is more superior to you, more important to you than enjoying that sin, whatever it may be. So that's how you compare things. But you can only compare them and decide what you want to do if you have good knowledge in recognizing the difference between the two and the full extent of the difference. You know, sometimes people they know that it's different. This is better for me than that, but they don't have the full extent of the knowledge as to how exactly are they different, in what way, in how many different ways are they different. The more you know of that, the more clarity you have, the more certainty you have, the more likely you will be to act upon it. So that is clarity, or we can call it certainty. Right? The second element is, Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi, he says, ضعف النفس ودناءتها. That the nafs, that the human soul, becomes very lowly. You know, a nafs that has no zeal to seek high aspirations. You know, somebody who knows that there are high goals in this world that can be achieved. You can be a businessman, you can be a PhD, doctorate achiever, or you can be a professor, you can be a business owner, you can be this and you can be that. But you find the person always lacking zeal, weak, you know, nothing motivates them. So even if they have the most incentivizing goal, you know, the clarity of the goal is so clear in his head, it's been explained to him properly, but the way he perceives himself, he thinks lowly of himself. And because of that, it doesn't matter how clear the goal is, they will never actually move towards it. Yeah. And remember, we said that this is the Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi, he says the ulama calls this adim al-muru'a. This is a person who has no muru'a in them, no cavalry, no self-esteem, no desire, no determination, no willpower. You know, they, in more precise terms, they don't see themselves fit for any high aspirations. Dana'atun nafs, he says, dana'atun nafs. You look low at yourself. You think that this person is not fit enough to aspire for these big goals, and therefore, no matter how the goal is clear, they will never go for it. So these are the two problems. So the solution is what? Is to increase your knowledge so you can tell the difference between wrong and good, or evil and good, wrong and correct things, what Allah loves and what Allah hates. But at the same time, you need to work on the other thing, which is working on yourself. And the ulama, they did speak about this. How if somebody is always demotivated, you know, nothing motivates them, nothing works on them, how do they bring that up? You know, so I remember in Kitab Ihya Ulum al-Din by Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, he says sometimes a believer may find himself such that nothing motivates him. You know, he hears about Jannah, he hears about being in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Jannah. He hears about being saved from the fire of hell, about meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and looking at his face, talking to him, all these beautiful things. But when it comes to reality, none of that actually moves the person to do something. He says, Imam al-Ghazali, he says, this is a person who has low self-esteem, meaning they don't see themselves as fit for any goodness. And then he says, one of the ways that a person needs to do this, they need to see what incentivizes his heart, his nafs. Even if it means to work on his nafs to achieve certain dunya matters. You know, because you often find this person unable to achieve anything at all. Not akhirah, not dunya. Right? Because the goals are goals, whether they are dunya goals or akhirah goals. So Imam al-Ghazali, he says, if akhirah is harder to incentivize a person like this, because it is unseen, at least he should train himself on achieving goals related to this dunya. So a small goal, achieve it, and then go for another goal, achieve it, and then third goal. And as you go along, you start to believe in yourself. You start to believe that, and even he said that you can go as far as hoping to achieve high statuses in the community. For example, to be the chief of something, to be the manager of something, to be the owner of something. So these kind of things, what they do, they will change the mindset of the person, and then once he's developed that nature, eventually his soul will lead him to aspire for something even bigger, which is Jannah. But a person with no aspiration at all, they find themselves, no matter what you incentivize them with, no matter how you motivate them, they're never pushed. They lack in it. And subhanAllah, this is the explanation of the Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, or one of the suggestions for the solution. But one hadith that is so relevant to this is enlisted in a chapter in the book Riyadh al-Salihin, a chapter that I advise you always to go over it every now and then, you know, which is the chapter of Mujahada. The chapter of Mujahada in Riyadh al-Salihin. In particular, if you can find the commentary of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayhi, or the commentary of any scholar, right? Get hold of that book, Riyadh al-Salihin, with commentary. And that chapter, you need to go over it over and over again. And that chapter speaks about what? How to basically to have mujahada, to struggle, to strive bit by bit until you become in certain ranks that you want to achieve. Right? And I think in the past as well, we commented in one hadith that is so motivating, full of motivation. And if you remember the hadith about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes a friend of a person when a person struggles on fulfilling the obligations, and then he covers all the obligations and he works harder into doing optional deeds. And then with that drive, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves him. And then once he loved him, he will protect him. Remember the hadith? Yeah. So that hadith is also in that chapter. Right? Other hadith that is included in that chapter, like the saying of the Prophet, نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس الصحة والفراغ. You know, this hadith says, and you will see the relevance of it in the chapter of struggle. He said there are two ni'mas, two blessings, two people are missing out on. The first ni'mah is as-sihha. As-sihha, the fact that you are blessed with health. Like, don't take that for granted, because soon you will lose that health. And what do we mean by when we say don't take that for granted? Meaning maximize your use for it while you are healthy now, because that it will go away. And once it's gone away, you will feel what is called al-ghabn. Al-ghabn. Ghabn is when you feel that you've traded something so precious in return for something cheap. And that is why in the akhirah is called Yawm al-Taghabun. Yawm al-Taghabun, mean this is the day of regret, where people will realize they have traded something very precious, and in return they got something very cheap. Everybody will feel ghabn, meaning you feel that you've lost your dunya, you finished your lifespan, which Allah granted you, but in return you didn't get anything meaningful, you didn't get anything significant. So the evildoers will be obviously full of regret, and the good doers, they will also be full of regret, because they will be thinking themselves, I could have done more, I could have achieved more. Right? So when you realize that this is the case with your sahha, with your health, that will make you feel that every moment while I'm healthy is significant, and I'm not going to allow it to go by without benefiting from it. And then the other one, he says, al-faragh, free time. You know, having free time in your hand, whereby you can do things for your own. Again, when you have free time in your hand, don't think this is going to last forever. Okay, soon you'll become busy. And I'm sure in the small conversation we have in our pre-class session, we spoke about how when you are young, you have a lot of time, and then the older you get, the more responsibilities and the less chances you have to come to Allah, learn the Deen, and so on and so forth. You find yourself struggling so much to put time into learning the Deen. So such hadith is included in that chapter, the chapter of mujahada, the struggle. But now, one of the most important hadith, which Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh, he says it could be seen as the constitution of the believer. If there's one hadith that you could put in your head all the time, so that it can keep you going, it could be this hadith. It could be the methodology, when they say that like an anthem that you repeat all the time, and it motivates you, then it's this hadith. But he says, Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah, he says, volumes and volumes of books can be written only in commentary on this hadith. Many books can be written about on this hadith. What I will do, just to keep you in the picture, I'll try to try to put the hadith also here, so you can be with me when I'm explaining it, so you'll see it in the screen as well. Can you see this hadith? So this is the hadith Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh. He says this hadith can be the constitution, the anthem, the one hadith that if you remember, it will keep you going in this life. It will keep you motivated at all times. The Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith, المؤمن القوي وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف وفي كل خير. And the hadith continues. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read the hadith, so you know the hadith in its entirety. I'm going to give you a minute just to read it. طيب. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ said at the beginning, we'll take it one sentence at a time. The Prophet ﷺ says, المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف وفي كل خير. I mean, a strong believer is there's more good in him, and hence he's more loved by Allah than the weak believer, though there is good in both of them. There's goodness in both of them. That's the first statement of the hadith. The first thing we need to comment about here, the Prophet ﷺ saying a strong believer. What does it mean? Growing up in my primary school and secondary school, I used to see this hadith written in the gymnastic hall or in the football field. They write it and they instilled in us that the meaning of this hadith, that the strong believer in the physical sense. And that is not what was meant by the hadith. This is not how you would speak if you were speaking about, if you describe somebody by a certain title and then describing him as being good or strong or excellent, what you are describing as good or strong or excellent is basically the trait that you have mentioned previously. So if you say, for example, so and so is a very strong lawyer. Okay? He's a strong lawyer. You haven't said Ahmad is strong. If you said Ahmad is strong, then you probably mean physically strong. But if you described Ahmad as being a lawyer, and then you said that he is a strong lawyer, then what type of strength are you talking about here? Yeah, strength in his knowledge and expertise as a lawyer. That's what you're describing as strong. And no one should be thinking that he's muscular, right, or physically strong. Right? In this hadith, there is no doubt amongst the scholars that what's being spoken about here is the strength of iman. You know, so al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun. Khayrun. There is an omitted hamza at the beginning. Usually it's akhyaru. Right? Like the word nas. Nas, you know what nas means? Nas means people. Usually people has unas at the beginning. And because of that, the hamza, because of the frequent use of the word, the Arabs, they have the habit of cancelling that hamza. So rather than saying unas, they cancel the u and they say nas. Even Allah is al-ilah, because of the constant or frequent use of it. Al-i, heavy on the tongue. So they removed it and they made it Allah, just one word. So they have the habit of cancelling out the hamza. So here khayr means is akhyaru. Akhyaru. Wa ahabbu. You see the word the hamza is kept on the second word, ahabbu, meaning there is more good in him, and hence he is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala min al-mu'min al-da'if, from a weak believer. From this, what we can learn, that iman, first and foremost, varies from one person to another. And this hadith basically is an invitation for people to increase their iman, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you based on your iman. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you based on the khayr that comes out of you. Because the hadith says that a strong believer, a lot of goodness come out of them. That's what the ulama, when they comment in this hadith, they said the strong believer is him who have completed himself with two things, and also completed others with two things. He completed himself with knowledge, Islamic knowledge, and righteous deeds, acting upon the knowledge. That's how he completed himself. And having done that, he moved on to completing other people, by also telling them, passing them Islamic knowledge, and telling them to hold on to it, and then telling them to have sabr upon acting upon the knowledge. Right? And that is what's mentioned in Surah Al-Asr. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. By time, every man is at loss, except for the one who has four characteristics. What are they? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, in themselves, that's the knowledge. عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, the righteous deeds. And then they moved on to others. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, they tell people to hold on to the truth. They tell them what the truth is, give them the knowledge they have. تَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, they tell others, hold on to the truth. So meaning hold on to acting upon the truth. So a person who is the furthest that can be from any form of loss is the person who have completed these four characteristics. Right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that every man is at loss. By time, every man is at loss. During your time in this dunya, you will be at loss, except if you have completed four characteristics, and therefore you will not be at loss. And the more you miss out from these characteristics, for example, somebody whose knowledge is short, so they will receive losses depending on how much they missed out from the Islamic knowledge. If somebody has righteous deeds, but they have not perfected or completed themselves in that area, also they will receive losses depending on how much they missed out on the acting on the knowledge they have, the righteous deeds. And if somebody has these two, knowledge and righteous deed, but they have not given da'wah, they have not enjoyed the good, they have not forbidden the munkar, right? They would not be as perfect and as complete as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted them to be. Right? And even having done that, if they don't have sabr, they have sabr in themselves and they give sabr to others, they will not have completed themselves. So a believer that is complete in their iman, al-mu'min, remember we said that this is the title. The person who has the title is the person who has what? Perfected it. Remember the example I gave you? somebody who fixes a car or changes the bulb or in the car or the headlights. You can say that he can fix cars. But would you give them the title mechanic? No. Mechanic is only a title that you give to somebody who has perfected their skills. So when we give the title here, al-mu'min, then you should not expect the word al-kamil, the perfect mu'min. It's already there. By what? By the title, by the fact that the title is so al-mu'min, and then al-qawi is added to it. Then definitely you are talking about somebody who's perfected their iman. And how do they perfect their iman? By these four things, right? Perfect iman, perfect Islamic knowledge, perfect actions, righteous deeds, perfect in spreading the da'wah, enjoying the good, forbidding the munkar, and perfect in having sabr in themselves and telling others also to have sabr. That's how they become al-mu'min, and how they become qawi. And the quwwah they will have in them when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says khayrun. Khayrun means aktharu khayran, akhyaru. I mean, there is more good that will come out of them, because what they did, they perfected themselves and they perfected others, and that will make them good. What emanates from them is a lot of good, the benefit of humanity. Right? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or the Prophet in the hadith, al-khalqu iyalullah. The creation, people, are the dependents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ahabbul khalqi ilallah, and the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the one who is most beneficial to his dependents. Okay? It's like saying you have children, and the one that benefits your children, you love him, this person, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this, the Prophet says in this hadith that the creation, the people, are the dependent on Allah, the dependents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean that he's the one who provides for them. And the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the most is the one who benefits his dependents the most. Right? And how you can benefit people the most is by giving them Islamic knowledge and giving them da'wah, enjoying the good, forbidding the munkar. Also dunya benefits as well. That is also something that Allah loves. But what's the comparison between somebody who benefits people in dunya matters, right? For example, building a well for poor people to nourish their bodies from it, compared to somebody who nourishes the souls, and then as a result of that nourishment, they end up living an everlasting life in Jannah. Whereas the first person could be nourishing the bodies, and then as a result of it, they die, but they go to the fire of hell. There's no comparison between the two. Right? So, and that's why the ulama, they realizing that this is the best way to benefit the creation, and therefore to be beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they focus all their energy to learn Islamic knowledge and spread Islamic knowledge. They did not worry too much about gaining money and spreading and giving money. They know that this is also beneficial, but what is more beneficial and most beloved to Allah is what? Gaining knowledge and spreading knowledge. That is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the best form of rahmah. In the hadith, the Prophet he says, Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhumullah. Those who have mercy upon others, Allah will have mercy upon them. And that mercy also will be in proportion. So it depends on what form of mercy you had on others. Allah will also give you that mercy in return. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that al-mu'min, a true believer, and remember I told you about al-mu'min, iman being coming from the word amina, and because of that you have peace and tranquility within you. And if you don't have those evil energies and evil thoughts and disturbance within you, you will be at ease, and therefore you will be able to produce. You will produce a lot. Unlike a person that lacks iman, before they get into the area of production, they have a lot of things to fight off within them, a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of disturbances, and therefore even when they attempt to do something, it will not be as fruitful, it will not be as beneficial to humanity as the person that is with serenity and peace within them. المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف وفي كل خير. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, and there is good in both of them. Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayhi, he says, definitely this is not in reference to the physical strength of the body. He says, because the physical strength of the body قد تكون ضررا على الإنسان. The physical strength of a human being can be a source of evil for a person. No? because a lot of the times you find the people who are strong physically, they are the ones who are more keen to do sins, because you can only do sins when you are fit, right? The people who can do haram things are people who are fit, rich, and strong. Weak people, people who are in their sick beds, they don't think of sinning. Right? So Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi, this quwwah, this physical strength of a person, if it's not, it's only commendable and it's praiseworthy if it's used in the praise of Allah, in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But otherwise, in itself, it's not a reason for praise. And I don't know if you noticed, a lot of people, subhanAllah, who train and they go to the gym and they pump iron and whatever, you find them a lot of the times they have arrogance in them. Not all of them, a lot of them. So physical strength usually comes up with this pride and arrogance, or lack of tolerance and lack of patience, wanting to jump on other people and beat them and stuff like this. So physical strength isn't always praiseworthy. So what is, yes?
I don't think it's to exert yourself physically affects you mentally as well. So if you exert yourself, if you don't know your limits and you exert yourself so much, you're going to be mentally drained. And in order to exert yourself mentally to learn Islamic knowledge or whatever knowledge you want to learn, it's going to be difficult.
What the point I think is trying to make here, that physical strength is not always good for the person. You always find the people who are humble, weak, short, slim. They are the ones who are humble and sweet, and they have no arrogance. And usually, not always, sometimes you have slim people, weak, who are full of arrogance. But the norm is that physical strength doesn't come with a lot of good, unless you have iman that matches that physical strength. And that's why the Prophet made a point of emphasizing. He says, لَيْسَ الْقَوِيُّ بِالصَّرْعَةِ. A strong person is not one who can wrestle people to the ground. He says, وَلَكِنَّ الْقَوِيُّ الَّذِي يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ. A strong person is one who can wrestle himself within himself when he's angry. Wrestle his own anger to the ground. Meaning, basically, he's talking about anger here, but we can generalize this. A person who is able to wrestle all his negative emotions to the ground so that they don't get the better of him. That is a strong person. So when it comes to sadness, he doesn't allow sadness to overcome him. He can wrestle it to the ground. When it comes to anger, the same. When it comes to fear, he does the same thing. He conquers his fear. When it comes to regret, he knows how to balance it, like we spoke earlier. Right? That's where strength of character, from the point of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he says, so the person who is qawi, al-qawiyu bil-iman, is the one who has high levels of iman, and therefore you would expect from him that which is expected from somebody who is strong in iman. Right? Somebody who is always on the go, doing righteous deeds. And this is the relevance of this hadith in the chapter of mujahada in Riyadh al-Salihin. Remember I said to you, he put it in mujahada. Imam al-Nawawi, he put this hadith in the chapter of mujahada, because he's trying to tell you, if you are strong, you will be full of productivity. You will always be producing righteous deeds, and you will never stop. Right? So a strong believer, he's strong in his iman, and that which is necessitated by his iman. Meaning, when it comes to salat, he's always happy to do his adhkar. He is not overcome by laziness or procrastination or tiredness. No, he's always on the zeal, adhkar, and then after the adhkar, sunnah, after the sunnah, witr, after the witr, he's got a dhikr. Before he goes to bed, he's got his adhkar, and when he gets in the morning, he gets up before fajr, he does few rak'ahs. Then he's on the go, producing. That's what iman requires. So that is the strength of iman. A person who isn't doing like this is not a strong believer. And he cannot be a strong believer in terms of the benefit they bring to others before they are able to bring benefit to themselves. Such an important hadith, Allah. So the Prophet he says, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ, and there is good in both of them. This is this is called ihtiraz in the Arabic language, this style of making a statement and then making a qualifier, if you like, to make sure that no confusion is taking place. In case somebody thinks that, okay, there's only good coming out of a strong believer and the weak believer has no goodness in them. No. Allah says, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ. As long as you have iman in you, some form of good will come out of you. Some form of good will come out of you. Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayhi, he says, and this is a style that a believer ought to learn when you speak and when you make statement, because this is how Allah speaks in the Quran, and this is how the Prophet speaks. And if you are influenced by the Quran and by the Hadith, that will affect on the way you speak as well. And he says, he quotes a number of ayat in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says concerning the people who gave charity before the conquest of Mecca. Before the conquest of Mecca, the strength of the Muslims and establishing the Islamic State wasn't there, and the strength of the Muslims wasn't known, and the Muslims were vulnerable. So the people who would give charity before the conquest of Mecca, they were taking a risk because they don't know how this Islamic nation will go. Will it be established? Will they be defeated? So it takes a lot of iman to give them. But after the conquest of Mecca, everybody can see that the Islamic State is here to stay, and therefore there's no risks of spending in charity. You know that you are going to win. So who has more iman? The one who gave charity before. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لا يستوي منكم, this is in Surah Al-Hadid, verse 10. لا يستوي منكم, they are not equal. Those of you, من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل, those who gave charity and fought in the cause of Allah before the conquest of Mecca. أولئك those, أولئك أعظم درجة من الذين أنفقوا من بعد وقاتلوا. They are more in more reward, in higher rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than those who spend their money in charity and fought in the cause of Allah, but after the conquest of Mecca. Now, in case you think that those who fought after, they have no reward, Allah says what? وَكُلًّا وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الْحُسْنَى. For both of them, Allah promised them Jannah, but different ranks. So you learn this from the Quran. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions the story of Dawood and Sulaiman. I might have touched upon it for those who attended my tafsir class. وَدَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ. You know the story of Dawood and Sulaiman. Dawood was the king. Sulaiman was his son. He used to attend some of his sessions where he used to make judgment amongst his people from Fajr up to Dhuhr time. So two people came to Dawood alayhi salam, and he has to give a verdict for the owners of some garden, which were attacked literally by the flock, the herd, the sheep of some people. So rather than looking after their herd, they allowed them to go everywhere. So they went into this garden, and the sheep destroyed the grapes, and they left nothing on it. And what they destroyed was more in value than the worth of the sheep. So Dawood alayhi salam said that because of the damage you caused this person, you will have to give your sheep to this man, and that's not even to cover the full costs. When Sulaiman alayhi salam, the son, when he heard of this, he says, if you were to allow me, I would have ruled it in a different way. So he says, I would take the flock of the sheep of this group of people and give them to the owners of the garden and allow them to benefit from it for an entire year. And then in the meantime, I will allow the people of the sheep, the shepherds, to look after the garden and to reinstate it to how it was before the attack. And when they have reinstated it, these people, they have their garden back, and those people, they have their sheep back. Right? So now, which one is wiser? So Sulaiman was just and also kind at the same time, whereas Dawood alayhi salam was what? Just. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَدَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ, and remember Dawood and Sulaiman when they were إِذْ يَحْكُمَانِ فِي الْحَرْثِ, when they used to give verdict about the garden. إِذْ نَفَشَتْ فِيهِ غَنَمُ الْقَوْمِ, when the sheep of those folks, people, attacked it. وَكُنَّا لِحُكْمِهِمْ شَاهِدِينَ, and we were witnesses to their judgment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَفَهَّمْنَاهَا سُلَيْمَانَ. So we give the deeper understanding to Sulaiman alayhi salam. But you might think that that Dawood was wrong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلًّا آتَيْنَا حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. And to both of them, we give them knowledge and we give them wisdom, and they were insightful, both of them, even though Sulaiman was deeper in his insight, but that doesn't mean that Dawood was wrong. You know? So when you are exposed like this with the Quran, you will learn how to speak like this as well. Right? And this is something very important point Ibn Taymiyyah is making here, is the more you influence yourself, you will be more articulate, you will be more cautious how to speak, how to not wrong people, how to make sure that you get the best out of your communication when you speak to others. Unlike a person who is not influenced by the Quran and the Sunnah, you'll find them causing themselves a lot of difficulties and a lot of scenarios and a lot of hardship with people without them knowing. No one causes a foolish person more damage and more harm than what they cause themselves, right? By their own tongue, right? So this is one of the benefits of being exposed to such a hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ says, "إحرص على ما ينفعك." In this hadith, he says, "المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف وبكل خير." A strong believer has more goodness in him, more goodness emanates from him, and therefore he is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the weak believer, although there's goodness in both of them. And then he says, to teach you how to become a strong believer. Now look at this hadith. These statements are not like random, because you will be asking, how do I become a strong believer? Wouldn't that be the question? Isn't that the question that we are asking when we read Ibn Qayyim's comment earlier, that the root cause of all evil is either lack of recognition, or lack of self-esteem. You don't have that zeal and that ghayra, the ghayra, what you talk about, what he mentioned in the earlier chapter of the book, when he said ghayra is when you feel that this nafs of yours is so good that you are so protective of it that you will not allow it to go to lowly levels. You will always want to push it to the highest possible levels. It's not ghayra where you just want to fund people or keep people away from it. That's the common understanding of ghayra. No, but the proper understanding of it, that you value yourself so much, you value your wife so much, you value your daughter so much, that you feel that they are worthy of protection. So he said that the ghira, a person who has no ghira to his maharim, is not going to enter Jannah. لا يدخل الجنة اليوث. Because he's lacking ghira. If you don't feel that you have value to your important things that are part of your honor, then the likelihood is that you don't have any honor for yourself. And because of that, you're not going to do anything that leads you to Jannah. Right? But if you see yourself as somebody who is worthy of high levels of Jannah, because of that, you will work hard. Right? So this hadith is telling us, you need to become a strong believer for you to work hard. The question, how do I become a strong believer? This is the answer here. He says, احرص على ما ينفعك. Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi, he says, هذه وصية جامعة مانعة. This is a piece of advice that is so comprehensive, and that is, you will not be missing anything out of it. You will not be missing anything if you understand it and you take it like the slogan you live by your life by. He says, احرص على ما ينفعك. These are hardly 3 words. In fact, كلمتان وحرفان. 2 words and 2 letters. They call them harf. احرص is a word. على is harf, not even a word. ما is harf. ينفعك is word. So 2 words and 2 letters. He said, this is, if you understand it fully, you will not need anything else. You will not need any more advice. That will be sufficient. احرص على ما ينفعك. الحرص. What is الحرص? الحرص is بذل الجهد واستفراغ الوسع. بذل الجهد, to exert all the efforts that you have within you, and to use everything that is within your disposal. Everything that you have access to, you use all of that in order to achieve whatever you want to achieve. احرص, that's what hirs is. So the lack of hirs is either not to apply yourself fully to whatever you're doing, or not to use everything that is within your disposal. So that hirs. احرص على ما ينفعك. وضد الذي ينفع الذي فيه ضرر. The opposite, because the Prophet said, strive or be keen to that which is beneficial to you. Put effort, apply yourself to achieve that which is beneficial to you. Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi says, from this hadith we can understand that things can be of 3 categories. Anything you get engaged with is of 3 categories. The first category is that which is beneficial to you. The second category, that is that which is harmful to you. The third category, that which is neither beneficial nor harmful to you. So 3 things. Whatever you get engaged with, whatever act you do, it will be one of 3 things. Either things that are beneficial to you, or things that are harmful to you, and things that are neither harmful nor good. Okay? So he said, when you've recognized this, and when you want to decide to make anything at all, make sure that you always focus on that which is beneficial to you. Okay? And that word implies that you have to do a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. By the same token, this also means if your focus should be on that which is beneficial to you, this also means if there are 2 things that are beneficial, wouldn't that imply that you would focus on the one that has more benefit to you? By the same hadith, because you're focused on benefit. So sometimes you'll be comparing between something that has benefit and something that has harm, but sometimes you have to be comparing between 2 things. Both of them are beneficial, but one thing has more benefit to it than the other. So this word means a lot of planning is required from the believer. Based on the knowledge you have, you need to be planning, you need to be thinking and analyzing. And then based on that, you will be deciding what should be my priority now. What should I be striving towards now? I've recognized now that this is what I need to do. This is what has the maximum benefit to me. So I'm going to apply all myself, all my efforts, all my time in this particular thing. And if you think about it, I think, brother saying, you asked this question in the group, the WhatsApp group. How do we get to ourselves to shift from dunya? Because we are so focused on dunya, although we believe in the akhirah, but how do we get ourselves to shift from dunya in towards the akhirah? I think because we haven't done this. We haven't sat with ourselves to decide and determine which of the 2 has more benefit to me. We missed out on this. We are just rushed into action. So we end up doing something that is either harmful to us, or something that is not harmful, not beneficial, or something that is beneficial, but at the expense of something else that is more beneficial than what we are engaging with. Yes, we have not done the pre-thinking that is required before you get into action. And that's why the Prophet says, Al-ajalatu min ash-shaytan. Hastiness is from shaitan. He just wants you to act, do it, just do it. Because he knows that if he gets you to just keep going, you will not be doing this. You will not be thinking and prioritizing things and giving precedence to what is more important to you. Right?
Sheikh, is this the same concept as basira?
Yeah, yes, basira, yes. Basira, that's basira. Yeah. So now we're speaking about the first of the 2 elements now. Like we're going to speak about the second thing now. So basira is basically when you become super clear as to what is your number 1 priority. And then you decide that this is the area in which I'm going to apply myself. The best of my time is going to be given to this area. The best of my energy is going to be spent on this area. The best of my finances is going to be spent on this area. If you don't, that's what happens when you, as you put in the question, we end up spending a lot of time in dunya and very little time, even though we say we believe in al-akhirah. But then how could it be that we believe in al-akhirah but we give it little attention? This thoughtfulness has not preceded the actions. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi says, فالإنسان العاقل الذي يقبل وصية النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم هو الذي يحرص على ما ينفعه وما أكثر الذين يضيعون أوقاتهم اليوم في غير فائدة. He says a wise person is the one who accepts the benefits, the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they would focus in things that are beneficial to them. And this is something we will say to many people who are not only wasting their time, but also spending their time and energy in things that are harmful to them. So we will tell them that you have neglected the advice of the Prophet ﷺ, either out of jahl, out of ignorance, or out of negligence. طيب. لكن المؤمن العاقل هو الذي يقبل هذه النصيحة ويحرص على ما ينفعه في دينه ودنياه. طيب. And then he says, وهذا حديث عظيم ينبغي للإنسان أن يجعله نبراسا له في عمله. This is a hadith that can be the anthem that you keep repeating throughout your day and throughout your week and months. And it will be the constitution by which you run your life. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم احرص على ما ينفعك. Also he says على ما ينفعك. Apply yourself fully on that which is beneficial to you. He says كل شيء ينفعك. Everything that is beneficial to you سواء في الدين أو في الدنيا. whether it is dunya matters or akhirah matters. But then he says here, فإذا تعارضت منفعة الدين ومنفعة الدنيا فقدم منفعة الدين. If there is a clash and you cannot fulfill both, one of them has to be given priority, or one of them has to be fulfilled at the expense of the other, then give precedence to the benefit of the deen. This is exactly what I was speaking about earlier here. You will see a lot of the times there will be clash between things, and you will be able to make the right decisions depending on your clarity as to which one is more beneficial to you. Dunya is beneficial, alhamdulillah, engage with it. But if it's going to come at the expense of something that is beneficial to you in both dunya and akhirah, then that's the wrong decision. He says, لأن الدين إذا صلح صلحت الدنيا. Because the deen, if it's rectified, if it's in a good place, in a good position, then dunya will be also rectified with it. Right? أما الدنيا إذا صلحت مع فساد الدين فإنها تفسد. As for dunya, if it's rectified and became full and fruitful, without the deen, it will eventually go to bankruptcy and become corrupted. So neither of them will work. If you attain dunya at the expense of deen, you would have lost both of them. But if you attained the deen, if it happens to be at the expense of al-akhirah, at least your deen will fix your dunya and akhirah. And I'm sure you can run in your minds now a lot of people that you have met who are successful in some dunya ways, but they are not being able to be happy with whatever the success they have achieved. A lot of people, right? And you will be thinking of a lot of people as well who are unable to do anything in their lives, dunya-wise, because their mindset is not helping them. You know, for example, think of a child, of a student, for example, who's sitting at the library trying to focus, but they can't focus because the shaitan is messing with them. So they neglected their deen, their thoughts are messed up with the shaitan, and as a result of that, they can't do neither deen nor the akhirah. But if they focus on their deen a little bit, they did their adhkar, they maintained a good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they stay away from haram things, music, etc., then they will be able to find the peace when they sit down and study at the library. So if they neglected the deen, both of them are gone. Deen, dunya and deen. Right? And this is the part of the clarity of the person. وفي قوله, and part of the statement of the hadith of Prophet when he says, apply yourself to that which benefits you, that when you have, I mentioned this, when you have two benefits, you need to be wise enough and thoughtful enough that you will recognize which one of them has benefits. So he gave example here, if you have to go and do righteous deeds, right, and think about it, what is more beneficial to you in terms of your dunya and akhirah, visiting, for example, a sick person that is a friend, or a sick person that is a cousin. So you may give precedence to visiting the person who is also a cousin, because that will be twice the reward, because you will get the reward for visiting the sick, and also the reward of maintaining the ties of kinship. Right? So you need to be wise like that. Also, at the same time, if you are at the situation where what benefits you constitutes warding off some evil, so that's the benefit, isn't it? To protect yourself from evil that was coming your way. Right? But sometimes you might be in a situation where you can't avoid both evils. There are two possible evils that can come to you, and you can only ward off one of them. Right? Having an insight as to which of them has more evil, and then protecting yourself from that, and then allowing the lesser of the two evil to come, that is also part of applying yourself to what benefits you. Now the Prophet ﷺ says, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله. استعن بالله mean ask help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sin, the ta, the alif, the hamza, the sin, and the ta means فعل الطلب. You are ask عون from Allah, ask help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, ما أروع هذه الكلمة بعد قوله احرص على ما ينفعك. How beautiful, how amazing bringing this statement after saying احرص, apply your mind, apply your energy, apply your physical strength into that which benefits you. Right? And then immediately after that saying, استعن بالله, seek Allah's help. Okay? He said the reason, لأن الإنسان إذا كان عاقلا ذكيا فإنه يتتبع المنافع ويأخذ بالأنفع ويجتهد ويحرص وربما تغره نفسه حتى يعتمد على نفسه ويستعان بالله. Because if a person is so focused and so strong-willed, they know their priorities, they know what's good for them, they can forget to seek Allah's help. Right? So reminding them, seek Allah's help, because that will enable you to get what you want. Because nothing in this dunya you can achieve unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping you. Right? And this is a rule. Remember it, brothers. Wallahi. Nothing in this dunya is attainable unless you are helped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, including this hirs, developing that zeal, that strength of power, strength of character. Unless you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you with it, it will not come to you. You'll find yourself always lazy, lethargic, unfocused. You can't concentrate. Even if today you have a goal, tomorrow you realize that it's not a good goal, you cancel it, you try to aim for something different. So you find yourself all over the place. No matter how hard you try, it will not work. It will only work if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to help you. In what? Not only in achieving it, but also before that, in developing that zeal, that desire to apply yourself into it. And that's why he followed ihris ala ma yanfa'uka with ista'in billah. Ista'in billah. طيب. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah alayh, in his book Shifa'ul Alil, where he speaks about the Qadar, he says, this is very much like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone we worship, and we understand the word of ibadah now. He said, we alone whom we love to that extent. Right? So it's primarily an act of the heart. Right? But if you are struggling to develop that love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let alone act upon that love and worship Him, who are you going to seek help from? From Allah. So that's why these two, they have to be put together in one ayah. They are not separated. The verse didn't say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, end of verse, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, end of another verse. No, they were joined together. So that joining also tells you being able to develop the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to that extent is not an easy thing. Seek Allah's help. And this is something that we all struggle with. Sometimes you'll be wondering, why don't I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why am I lacking in the action? I think I love Allah, but why is it not to that level or not to that extent that with which I can act? Right? Seek Allah's help. Say, oh Allah, Allahumma inni as'aluka hubbak. And that's what part of the dua of Sallam. He used to say, oh Allah, I ask you to instill your love in my heart. Allahumma inni as'aluka hubbak wa hubba kulla amalin yuqarribuni ila hubbik. And Allah, instill in my heart to love you and to love every deed that leads you to anything that is beloved to you, and draw me close to your love. Right? So this is why the Prophet here as well, he says, ihris ala ma yanfa'uka wasta'in billah. In other words, he's telling you that hirs is not going to be attained until you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. Not only to act upon it, but also to develop that zeal, strong enough zeal that can propel you and get you to move. And that's why sunnah, part of the sunnah of the Prophet that we say in the dua in the morning, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan, and then وَمِنَ الْعَجْزِ وَالْكَسَلِ وَمِنَ الْجُبْنِ وَالْبُخْلِ وَمِنْ غَلَبَةِ الدَّيْنِ وَمِنْ قَهْرِ الرِّجَالِ. Right? All these are 8 sicknesses, 8 situations that destroy morality, destroy your zeal, your drive. Right? He said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ham. To be so stressed about the future that you are unable to do something about today. Wal-hazan. To be so saddened about the past that it depletes your energy from moving on today. Right? And then he adds to that, وَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنَ الْعَجْزِ وَالْكَسَلِ. Al-ajz. Al-ajz, what's al-ajz? No, al-ajz, الرجل العجوز is an old man that has lost his strength and ability to do things. Al-ajz is somebody who has no power, somebody who is disabled. Right? But somebody who's disabled, is he blameworthy? Somebody who's old, is he blameworthy? So now we're not speaking about physical disability. It's disability of the mind. So when you say Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ajzi, right? Eventually we will all become weak. We will all become strong, old people, and we will lose our strength, so that we cannot make dua against it. But what are we making dua against in this beginning of the day? Is mental depletion of energy. You know, where you have thoughts that will make you unable to move. Al-kasal. So al-ajiz is somebody who's physically able, but due to certain thoughts in his head, he is as bad as a disabled person. طيب. والكسل is somebody who is physically able, طيب, but he is so lazy.
Procrastination.
We keep procrastination. طيب. So you can see in this dua, we begin our day asking Allah, oh Allah, cleanse my heart of all these sicknesses, so I can have the zeal and the drive to go ahead with my life. So this is again when you say ihras ala ma yanfa'uk, that hirs. You are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the same thing. That's why he said, wasta'in billah. The ulama, they always repeat this line of poetry, which says, إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنَ اللَّهِ عَوْنٌ لِلْفَتَى فَأَوَّلُ ما يجني عليه اجتهاده. فأول ما يجني عليه اجتهاده. If there is no help being received from Allah to the fata, a man who is full of futuwa, strength. So fata is like imri'in. Imri'in is a man, but who has muru'ah, who has good characteristics and good principles. But when you say fata, you're talking about a man that has strength, of physical strength. So they say, إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنَ اللَّهِ عَوْنٌ لِلْفَتَى. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not sending some awn, some help to a person, no matter how much strength they have, فَأَوَّلُ مَا يَجْنِي عَلَيْهِ اجْتِهَادُهُ. The first thing that will destroy him, his own efforts. His own efforts will cause him destruction. You know? Then we need to make sure that you begin nothing except by seeking Allah's help, knowing that if you begin anything without Allah's help, that's it. Your own work, your own struggle, your own striving is going to bring you the most destruction. So bring Allah in your mind at all times. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says, لِيَسْأَلْ أَحَدُكُمْ رَبَّهُ حَاجَتَهُ. Let one of you ask his Lord all his needs. وَلِيَسْأَلْهُ شَسْعَ نَعْلِهِ وَمِلْحَ طَعَامِهِ. So much so that you should ask him the laces of your shoes and the salt for your food. Always ask, because everything comes if Allah grants it. If Allah doesn't grant it, you will never get it.
Question on that.
Yes.
How do we understand that? I mean, clearly, yeah, this is everything. That's for everything. But I've found over time that people use this they use this as an evidence or as an excuse to. I suppose I'm trying to in the line of not understanding what is most important in terms of what you're asking for. Like say for example, rather than saying we're focusing, okay, maybe in the salah now I do dua, but rather than focusing on duas as the ones we've been mentioning now, or the duas that have been taught by the Prophet and things like that, they focus on duas that ask for things of the dunya, which is not bad, but so I don't know if I'm clear enough.
I think you're trying to say that should you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything, or should you try to be more generic rather than specific? When it comes to dunya, be generic. When it comes to al-akhirah, be specific and be elaborate. Is that what you're trying to say?
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps.
Because sorts of laces are quite specific.
Yeah. So he's saying that asking for your shoelaces is specific. Right? When it comes to rizq, the rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, certain things are part of the rizq. You know, you're asking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to expand your rizq. You're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you food. You know, food it cannot be good or bad. Right? But what the ulama have mentioned, if something can be good or bad, and you want to ask for it in specific terms, say, oh Allah, if it's good for me. Do you understand? But when it's something that is generically known to be good, you know, how could your shoelaces be wrong? For example, everybody needs salt in their food. So stuff like this, the basic requirements. You don't need to be saying that, oh, if this is good for me, Allah give it to me, but if it's not good for me. But if it's something that is specific, for example, applying for a specific role at a specific company at a specific time, then say, oh Allah, if you know that this is a good thing for me, for my deen and my akhirah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it happen and make it my qadar, and so on and so forth. Okay? But what this hadith is focusing on here, I want you to see that how to get your mind to get out of that rut. Like when you have this, when your soul or your heart is at low levels of self-esteem, how do you get it to pick up and start to do things? Right? One is dua. Two is believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you because you sought his help. Right? Three, planning. When you plan, you leave no room for the shaitan. The shaitan plays with you when you get up in the day. Okay, today what am I going to do? If that's how you begin your day, the shaitan has a lot of room to play with you. But if you had plans already, today my plans is X, Y, Z. I'm going to do task number 1, task number 2, task number 3, and 4 and 5. That's it. The shaitan has lost his chances. So lots of planning based on what you've determined that is good for you. You plan your daily agenda of activities on what you will be doing. Otherwise, the shaitan will be messing up with you. 1 minute you say, okay, do this, do that, leave this and do that, and leave this and do that, or go on your phone for a little bit, or watch this program on Facebook, watch this on the TV. You're not specific. You haven't decided your plan like this, so the shaitan finds room to play with you. That is the point of the hadith. Right? And then in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Ista'in billah wa la ta'jaz." Seek Allah's help and do not be ajiz. Do not be ajiz. So ajiz here, the Prophet ﷺ is saying that do not be like a person who is ajiz. And I just explained to you what ajiz means. Ajiz is like ajuz. Ajuz means old man. I mean a person who's lost his physical strength. So he's, or an ill person that is in bedbound, right? But he's telling you, "Ista'in billah wa la ta'jaz." Don't become weak. So he's not talking about physical weakness. If you are physically weak, then no one can tell you don't be weak. You are weak physically, but he's telling you don't be weak mentally, right? And how do you become weak mentally? Beginning by knowing that you are approaching this task not on your own, but rather in the name of Allah. Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah. Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah. Relying on Allah, seeking Allah's help. That will make you mentally able to achieve things. So whenever you look at a task that is a little bit challenging, and you look at your self-esteem and your self-confidence, this person, me, I don't think I can achieve this. But if you know now that this is not only me, this is me and Allah with me. Allah's help is with me. Then I can do it. And you go with it with full heart. So the Prophet is saying, "Wala ta'jaz." Ta'jaz here means do not allow negative thoughts, wrong ideas, misconceptions to cause you to not do anything about your day. For example, the Prophet he says, "Al-ajizu man atba'a nafsahu hawaha wa tamanna 'ala Allah al-amani." Ajiz is a person who doesn't achieve anything in life, is a person that follows his whims and desires, right? And then he has wishful thinking that Allah will have mercy on me, Allah will lift my rank, Allah will multiply my good deeds, Allah will do this to me, Allah will do that to me. Wishful ideas, right? So these ideas, the Prophet said, this is al-ajiz. This is the person who is not going to do anything at all. Why are they not able to do anything? Because they have an idea in their heads that Allah is going to forgive my sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to cover my deficiencies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to multiply my good deeds. And why would anyone do anything when they are thinking like this? Right? So basically, wala ta'jaz means don't allow ideas, wrong misconceptions to settle in your head so that they cause you to not act and be like a disabled person. For example, in particular, this hadith, he's referring to Qadar. So he said, don't allow the idea of Qadar to cause you to say, what's the point of doing anything? Because everything is decreed. So he says, wala ta'jaz, don't allow negative ideas to settle in your head so that you are unable to move on. And this is again is helping you to get out of that rust, out of that trapped situation where you feel that you have very low self-esteem. A lot of the low self-esteem is caused by misconceptions. So la ta'jaz means clear those misconceptions. No.
I'm not sure where I got this idea from. I don't know if it's from previous conversation about this idea. But I used to understand or even explain this that wala ta'jaz aspect as do not be relentless about the ihris, the application that you've done. Say, for example, you've done an action,
Mhm.
and for whatever reason, maybe the first time it doesn't come out well or something, do not be relentless.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. This is part of this. So ولا تعجز means make sure you begin your journey. You start to act upon whatever you decided is best for you. And then while you are acting upon it, make sure that you don't stop halfway. Because you've already decided that this is the best thing for you. So make sure that you don't jump from one thing to another, Stay at it. So ajz could mean that you don't do anything about beginning, or beginning something but not continuing, not seeing it through. So ajz means ولا تعجز, don't be like a ajiz, either by not beginning or by somebody who begins by but stops halfway through. And again, both of these situations are caused by what? Misconceptions and wrong ideas in the mind. وهذا الحديث, he says, he says وهذا الحديث في الحقيقة يحتاج إلى مجلدات. This hadith in reality requires volumes and volumes of book if we were to write every area in which this hadith is applicable. لأن له من الصور والمسائل ما لا يحصى, because its areas of application are endless. منها مثلا, he says, he will give a couple of examples. He says, for example here, الذي يشرع في كتاب يرى أن فيه منفعة ومصلحة. Somebody who researches and decides that I'm going to begin reading this book, right? But then he reads 3 pages, 4 pages, and then after some time he leaves it and goes for another book. You know, how many times have we done this? In this time. Yeah. He says, if you have decided that a particular book, based on research and based asking people of knowledge, based on whatever you research that you've done, you've concluded that for you this is the best thing that you should be doing now. طيب? But then you do it, and then بعد أسبوع أو شهر يمل وينتقل إلى كتاب آخر. So after 1 week or another, you get bored and you move on to another book. هذا نقول عنه. Such person, we will say about him that he did seek Allah's help and he applied himself on whatever is beneficial to him. ولكنه عجز, but he is acting like an unable person. He has like a person with عجز. كيف عجز؟ بكونه لم يستمر, because he did not continue the journey. That's why he is described as عاجز. لأن معنى قوله لا تعجز أي لا تترك العمل. Because the true meaning or the full meaning of لا تعجز, it means do not abandon actions. Just act, keep on doing things. And this answers the question that we raised right at the beginning. How do I raise my self-esteem? You know, every time you try something and then you leave it, you may not realize it, but what has happened, you have tarnished what they call your self-image, how you perceive yourself. So in your subconscious mind, you've registered that Muhammad, myself, Muhammad, is a useless person. You may not have said those words, but your actions and what you did, you know, in your subconscious mind have registered that this person is useless, is purposeless, lacks energy, he is not capable of doing anything. This happened when you abandoned that task. So you lost in whatever gains that you could have achieved from that. But what is the greatest loss? The loss of your self-image, the tarnishing of your self-image. The next time you try to do something, your self-image would have deteriorated, your self-respect would have deteriorated. You will be thinking that, oh, the person who abandoned the task previously is probably going to abandon it again. And then this happens before, because this is how you're thinking, it's likely to happen again. And then that's it, you get into this roller coaster. And then what happens, it doesn't matter from this point onwards, when you get to a severe state of this, when you recognize this is good for me, this is what get me close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deep inside you, there's this voice inside you telling that's not for you. You are not, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You know, this is when you lack what anybody can remember the Arabic word? Muru'a. Khalas. You lost your غيرة. You Ibn Qayyim says this غيرة is like the heat, the temperature of the body that causes the body to be alive. You are only alive if you have that غيرة in you. Right? But غيرة means what? You see, you have this image of yourself that this is a noble person that I have within me. This is a person that is capable of things and deserves things, and therefore should aspire for things. So you feel like you need to be protective over that and the status that it deserves. When that is destroyed by every time you begin something but you never see it through, you begin something but you never see it through, that's it. Khalas, is going to destroy you. So the answer to the question in Ibn al-Qayyim's book, is to make sure that you learn by. We said that Imam al-Ghazali said one of his suggestions is if your nafs cannot be motivated for deeds of al-akhirah, at least get it to become motivated in anything, even if it means to do something dunya related. Because your problem is not that you don't believe in al-akhirah, your problem is with your nafs. So if the nafs cannot be sparked and it cannot have energy towards something that is to do with the unseen, at least let it be motivated for dunya things, tangible things. And then through that, once you have achieved this, then the nafs will become that type of nafs that has ghayra, that you have good image about it. So Imam Ghazali is saying this. This is a way of getting out of that difficult position whereby you don't have any mental energy. The dana'atul nafs, what Ibn Qayyim called dana'atul nafs. So in this hadith now, he's saying that obviously try your best to focus on the deeds of al-akhirah. But Imam al-Ghazali is saying that if you find yourself unable to focus in al-akhirah, do anything. Don't be the kind of person that have lost both. You're not working towards al-akhirah and you're not working towards the dunya. You are a wasted life. And the reason for this wasted life is the self-image. And the answer to how do you rectify it, how do you fix it? Activities, tasks. Do one, it doesn't matter if it's small, but see it through. Read one book, buy a small volume book, but see it through, read it all. That will, without you realizing, is going to enhance your self-image. You become better and better and better, and over time you'll find yourself, you have that energy to keep going. He says, Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayh, he says, even in the minor issues, sometimes, he says, because he gave an example of deciding on a book, for example, to read which book. That was the first example. The second example is sometimes you would read a book for the purpose of your research on a certain mas'ala, an issue that you want to find out. So you go through the book, and while you are looking, you come across another mas'ala that is also intriguing and interesting. He says, rather than going to the reason for which you open the book, you end up reading one mas'ala after another mas'ala. He says this happens a lot when you read Fatawa Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh. The book Fatawa Ibn Taymiyyah is something that is common. You open it wanting to know his opinion about a particular issue, but you find it's Fatawa, it's questions and answers. You end up reading a lot. But in so doing, even though whatever you did is beneficial, but that is wrong. That is wrong. You have a program. Stick to your program. You're doing a research about a certain fiqh issue or whatever issue that you're researching, and you want Ibn Taymiyyah's answer to a particular question. Take it and go back to where you were at the beginning.
Attention deficit. Low attention deficit.
Yes, but this is basically something that can be rectified. Right? When somebody's attention is low and they cannot focus, they have attention deficit, as the brother suggested. How do you rectify this? Is there a solution to it? This is the solution. Making sure that you keep your mind at what you're focused on. Another example, he says, when you look at the biographies of the Sahaba, and you read in the books of biographies, Tarajim al-Sahaba, for example, he mentioned Al-Isaba في تمييز الصحابة, a book by Ibn Hajar rahmatullah alayh. He says, you will open the book wanting to read the biography of Ibn Umar, and then you come across the biography of Abu Huraira, you find it interesting, you keep reading again. That's still good, it's not evil, but you have not prioritized things, and therefore you have not kept on one track. Wallahi, this hadith is so amazing, and it tells you the answers to all our problems. And then he says, this is something that we can learn from an incident or from the behavior of the Prophet ﷺ. But one incident was reported. The Prophet ﷺ was invited by a man called Atban ibn Malik, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. He invited the Prophet ﷺ. He said, come to my house, and I want you to choose. I have chosen a spot that I wanted to make it my place of worship. So please come to my house and pray there. Because once he's prayed 2 rak'ah there, this will become, basically, he's approved it, he's put barakah in it. So when he came, he found that Atban, he prepared some host, for his guests, food and stuff like this. So Atban wanted to invite the Prophet to the food. The Prophet said, no, let me go and do what I came for first. You know? Now, so this is a hadith, but I want you to see how the ulama, they are hunting for knowledge.
Specific.
And such hadith, you will not think that they have benefited this from it,
Yeah.
to learn how to focus. But this, they have learned from it. Do what you came for first. Having done that, then you can digress to other things. You know? But when you have decided that what is best for me right now is this activity or this task, don't digress, even if it's something beneficial. You know? So he goes, going back to the hadith, he says, فَقَوْلُ الرَّسُولِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم لَا تَعْجَزْ. So the saying of the Prophet لَا تَعْجَزْ basically means don't abandon actions. Keep doing them. Begin the journey of acting. And once you have begun the journey, keep at it until you finish it. Then the Prophet says in the continuation of the hadith, he says, فَإِنْ أَصَابَكَ شَيْءٌ. If something bad happens to you, meaning bad as a setback, temporary failures, something negative happened that prevents you from continuing the journey. Right? He says, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا لَكَانَ كَذَا وَكَذَا. Do not say, had I done such and such wouldn't have happened. طيب. يعني بعد أن تبذل الحرص وتبذل الجهد. After you apply your mind, focus and concentration, and you put the juhd, the ijtihad, the putting your energy, and you seek Allah's help, beginning by Bismillah. طيب. وتستمر, and you continue on the journey. And then things turn out to be not like how you wanted them to be. And sometimes this happens. You know, sometimes you will do everything by the book, and you will do everything, but things will just not work out. Right? Do not say, had I done such and such, whatever what you could have done, such and such wouldn't have happened. This is wrong for you to say. لأن هذا أمر فوق إرادتك. This is something that is beyond your will, something beyond your control. Nothing you can do about it. So saying that if I did such and such, this wouldn't have happened is wrong in so many levels. To begin with, it detects displeasure with the decree of Allah. How is that the case?
Because it's happened already.
It's happened.
Qadar,
You know, if it happens, it means what? It's the qadr. Before it happened, we didn't know if it was a qadr. But since it happened, you know, it's the qadr of Allah. If you are speaking about it in those terms, this means that you're not accepting of it. You're not accepting that this is actually good for you. So it constitutes displeasure with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And it goes against the qadr, the faith or the iman in the qadr. If you believe in the qadr, part of that iman is to believe that whatever Allah decrees is going to happen, and nothing can stop it from happening. So saying that if I did such and such, this wouldn't have happened, it constitutes what? Not believing in the qadr. Because part of the belief in qadr that nothing, once Allah wills for something to happen, no one can stop it. So speaking like that is not good. But what is more damaging in terms of what we are trying to solve is, again, keep blaming yourself. If you keep blaming yourself as well for something that is not your fault, you did everything you can, but you still blame yourself, that is wrong. Because what it will do to you, your mind or your subconscious mind will register failure, failure, failure. You are a failure. You are a failure. But instead, you should be saying, no, I'm not a failure. I did everything by the book. I tried my best. This is the best I could have done. And I couldn't do it because Allah decreed otherwise. But otherwise, what I did was what is required of me. If this was meant to happen, what I did was good enough. Right? So that what that will do to you is it will maintain your self-esteem. Your belief in yourself will not be damaged. But too much blaming, too much self-blaming is not required. And this is, again, goes to what you were saying earlier. Self-blaming is good, but to the right degree. It is only to the degree that you seek to learn things that could have tweaked in your actions in the past, so that in the future you do it in a different way. Just learning lessons. You overdo it slightly, you keep on dwelling on my fault, I should have done this. If you overdo it, the same statement, if you just keep repeating them unnecessarily, not in the context of learning, it becomes damaging. So the right level use of that emotion is required and it's beneficial, but you go over the top, you will be destroying yourself mentally. Right?
That should be, or shouldn't that be along the line of muhasabah, self-accounting?
Yes. So self-accounting, muhasabah is required. We are required to account ourselves for whatever we did, right? But to what degree?
To the degree of your ability. So.
Only until we have, if there's a mistake, we have rectified it, we have made a resolution to act differently in the future. As once we have decided how we're going to act in the future, that is not needed.
Yeah.
Once you've already decided how you're going to act in the future, you're no longer required to go back into regret. Right? Because a nadam is something that is not a positive energy, is not a positive emotion. Regret and remorse is negative. Right? And that's why we are only required to think of it in certain times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yusuf, وَاللَّهُ غَالِبٌ عَلَى أَمْرِهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Right? In verse 21, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is compelling to that which He wills. He's forceful, He's coercing. He will create situations that will make things go in a particular direction. If Allah has decided that your test in this dunya will have to be confined in this area, right? So you'll have to be tested within this area. You try to get out of it, you will not be allowed. Allah will bring you back somehow.
Mhm.
So some Bedouin was asked, how did you know about Allah? How did you believe in Allah? He said, I know Allah exists. كيف عرفت الله? He says, عرفت الله بعزائم الرجال. He says, by the will and the determination of men. What he means by that, a man will be fully incentivized, fully motivated to go in a particular direction. All of a sudden, his energy will just deplete, and he no longer wants to go in that direction. What just happened? Right? He thinks he can roam this earth however he likes. No, you are expected to be tested in this area, so you have to remain in this area. So if Allah doesn't want you to come out of this area, He will either create external factors that will bring you back to where you were supposed to be, or He will kill in you any desire to go otherwise, to go outside of it. And that reminds us of the hadith, of the beginning of this hadith, when He says, "احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله." So that hirs in your heart is from Allah. He's the one who grants it, and He's the one who takes it away. Right? So there's a common question that we hear these days, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, where people say, where people say that هل الإنسان مخير أو مسير? Is man forced, coerced, or does he have choice? Right? The full answer to this is not to say that he is fully at choice, or not he is at fully deprived from choice. No, you have choice to be in a particular area of test. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided for you how you'll be tested. You will be tested in a way, and I'll be tested in a way, and everybody will be tested in their different ways. Allah has decreed that already. So if you're trying to be tested in a different way, Allah will not allow you to get out of that area of test. You know, like what we see in real life these days. Companies, when they invite people for to take a test, or they want them to compete for a job or a role, they bring them, they give them a task, and they give them a certain environment, and they have to work within that parameter. So they are being tested, but within that parameter. Right? So do they have choice to be creative? To some degree, creative within what you have been given choice. You know, so your choices are X, Y, and Z. Right? You have to choose between that. You try to think outside the box, not allowed. You know, because you have to be limited with the resources they said you have only that. Right? So likewise, us sometimes you try to become, for example, rich, but Allah decreed that you will be tested with poverty. Right? Say for example, right? And therefore your attempts to becoming rich, and no matter what you do, it's not going to happen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test you with that type of test. You want to become a scholar, for example, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test you with being obedient to your parents. Right? So you seek to become knowledgeable, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not open the doors of that type of ibadah, because He decided that the type of ibadah that He wants of you is this area of test, and so on and so forth. So sometimes people are tested in different ways. So this choice, this matter whether man has choice or not, man has choice, especially choosing between good or bad or evil or righteousness. They have choice, but not fully. Like when you are in a motorway, that very high motorways between countries or whatever, you find you have choice between going between 6 lanes, but that's about it. These are the choices that you have. Like you have choice? Yes, I have choice. Every choice? No. Limited choices. You choose from whatever is available. So this question is, yes, you have choice, but within the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That choice of going out of the motorway, but just within certain junctions.
Yeah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Insan, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. Surah Al-Insan, verse 30, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you will not will unless it is within the will of Allah. It's not up to you to choose whatever you want. Okay? So this understanding is important for you to maintain your sanity, to maintain your self-esteem, to know that you're not a free person to just do whatever you want in this world. Okay? So he gives examples here. Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayh. He says, وَنَضْرِبُ مِثَالًا لِذَلِكَ. He says, we will give an example. If a man travels and he wants to go for Umrah, right? However, whilst in the journey, the car breaks down, and then he comes back and he says, لو أني أخذت السيارة الأخرى لكان أحسن. If I took the other car, it would have been better. طيب. ولما حصل عليه التعطل, I wouldn't have been in this situation that I'm in. Is this right or wrong to say that? No. It happened.
Goes against what we just.
Yeah. On those 3 levels, it's wrong because he's not accepting. He's not accepting the qadr of Allah. He has displeasure against it, and it's affecting the way he will see the world. Okay? He says, نقول لا تقل هكذا لأنك أنت بذلت الجهد. So we tell this person, don't speak like that. You did everything you can according to what is best knowledge to you at the time. Okay? By the way, this is very important, to what was available to you at that time. So basically, you were 25 years old. You had certain level of knowledge. You had certain level of life experiences, and then you applied your mind. And the best you could have done at that time is that decision. But then that experience added more to your knowledge. Now you know better. So now, if you do it now, you probably do it differently. But at that time, if things go back to how you were then, and that experience was taken out of your head, you would have done exactly the same thing. You understand? So even blaming yourself, you can't blame yourself. You can't say to yourself, how I couldn't see it. You can see it now because you have an increased amount of knowledge and increased amount of expertise. But at that time, this was the best you could have done. Not only in terms of knowledge, also given the circumstances, the amount of stress you had at the time, the amount of pressure, how much grief you had. Things were disallowing you to think clearly. Right? But later on, if you think, oh, how could I not see it? Right now, you're not going under the same pressures that you went through the first time. And he says here something very important. فالإنسان إذا بذل ما يستطيع مما أمر ببذله وأخلفت الأمور فحينئذ يفوض الأمر إلى الله. If a person has done everything within his disposal, remember this is what we said. This is what health is. Health to apply your mind and to use everything within your disposal. So if a person did this and things turned out to be in an unpleasant end, you do تفويض, يفوض الأمر إلى الله. تفويض. And this is the difference between tawakkul and تفويض الأمر. In the Quran, وأفوض أمري إلى الله. Tawakkul is when you rely on Allah, when there is something within your hand you can do. But when there is nothing you can do, you say, فوضت أمري إلى الله. I am not going to be doing anything at all because there's nothing else I could have done. So I'm leaving things in the hands of Allah. So we have 3 words. We have tawakkul, where there is something you can do, and you do everything within your disposal, but then you don't trust whatever you're doing. You don't put your trust in whatever you're doing. You know that things will only happen if Allah wills it. That is tawakkul on Allah. And the situation where there's something you can do, but you don't do them, and you put your trust in Allah. This is called tawakkul. That's wrong. You should not be doing this. Tawakkul is when you do everything within your powers, and then you trust Allah. That will be called tawakkul. The wrong form of it is called tawakkul. Tawakkul, where you don't do what you have access to. And then the third one is when there's nothing you can do. Khalas, you've done everything within your disposal, everything within your reach. You've done it, but things are not working out. That's when you say "Ufawwidu amri ila Allah." So tawakkul, and tafwid.
The second one is just the difference between that is just that mud after the wash.
Yeah.
Just explains how one could easily say something wrong in recitation of Quran.
Yeah. And the meaning could go hugely different. So he says, rahmatullah alayhi here, he says, if a man does everything within their disposal and still things don't work out, that's when he says, "Ufawwidu amri ila Allah." Fawwadtu amri ila Allah. This is good for you to know when to use such words. Right? He goes on to say, وَجَزَى اللَّهُ عَنَّا نَبِيِّنَا خَيْرَ الْجَزَاءِ حيث قال فإن اللو تفتح عمل الشيطان. He says, don't say the word law. Remember, it was the qadar of Allah. And therefore, you should only say, don't blame yourself for it. Don't say, if I did this and that, blah, blah, blah. This word, if, or had I done, or anything along those lines, will constitute all the wrong things that we mentioned. فإن اللو تفتح عمل الشيطان. Because the shaitan is there to work. And it shows you here as well that what you say as well could either open the door for the shaitan or close the door for the shaitan. So you can say certain things, and these things will be very powerful in creating a certain mindset. And that mindset will be very difficult for the shaitan to penetrate. And you could be saying wrong things, and that will create a different mindset for you, which will be very helpful for the shaitan. This is what we learn from this hadith, from this word. فَإِنَّ اللَّوْ تَفْتَحُ عَمَلَ الشَّيْطَانِ. For the word law, had I done such and such, that will open the gate for the shaitan to work freely. So in the one hand, it shows you that the shaitan is looking for any opportunity, right? But what you can also know is your tongue, what you say certain things, that it plays a big role in creating your mindset. So, and that's why we hear a lot in the hadith, say this, don't say that, say this, don't say that. Dhikr, do dhikr and say it loud. Don't say this. If a negative thought in your idea, suppress it. Don't allow it to be vocalized, verbalized. Because if they are in the mind, they are still weak. You verbalize it, they take a different level of strength. Right? So say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. The shaitan whispers, say, رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet was asked, sometimes we have certain thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We would rather burn until we turn into ashes. What do? He says, just say, speak and say, رضيت بالله ربا. I'm content and pleased that Allah is my Lord. I'm content and pleased that Islam is my religion. And I'm content and pleased that Muhammad is my prophet.
Sorry, sir. When would this be advised to say?
Yeah?
You mentioned the time
when the shaitan whispers to you certain things about Allah and you hear them ringing in your head. Right? Now, because they are in the form of thoughts, they have a certain level of strength. The minute you speak them, they will take another level of strength. So don't speak them. Rather, say something that is opposite to them. So saying something that is opposite will counter them and it will cancel them out. And that's why the Prophet said in the hadith, when the shaitan plays with your mind in the dream, don't get up and speak those dreams and say, I saw this and I saw that. You start to complain. Because they were dreams and they had a certain level of potency. Now you spoke them, now they took another level of potency. Right? So don't speak them. Just say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Right?
To discuss in the other parts of the book where Sheikh Ibn Qayyim was highlighting the different gates the shaitan.
Yes, and the tongue is one of them. Yes, yeah. And when we spoke about Dawud Dawa, he gave an analogy how the shaitan sent his troops to attack the heart, and he says he attacks through the ears, and then through the ears, meaning making you hear something evil. If you don't hear something evil, he will prevent you from hearing anything good from coming in. But he also goes through the tongue as well. He encourages you to speak evil. Because when you speak, And that's what Rasul says, that every day in the morning, every part of your body, يكفرون اللسان. They say, woe unto you, O tongue, please say something good or keep quiet. Because if you rectify yourself, we will be rectified. If you say evil, we will become evil. The tongue is very powerful in influencing the heart. You know, so that's why the Prophet emphasized a lot in this idea of speak certain things and don't say certain things. And this hadith we have here is an example of that. Yes.
I heard a verse this morning. I've heard it before as well. I was hoping you could elaborate. I tried, but I was hoping you could elaborate on the meaning. I can't remember this surah. I think surah to know. Akhabifun or akhabifat. Akhabifat. There's evil words are for evil men. Evil men are subjected to evil words.
Yes. This ayah, الطيبون للطيبات والطيبات للطيبون والخبيثون للخبيثات والخبيثات للخبيثون. In Surah An-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, well, some ulama, they said that this means that good women are for good men, and good men are for good women, and evil men are for evil women, because likes are gravitated towards one another. Right? In the context of Surah An-Nur, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about chastity, protecting oneself from evil, and they say that the evil people will gravitate towards one another, and the good people will gravitate towards one another. But another interpretation of that he says, also which goes with the context, when the rumors were spread that Safwan ibn al-Mu'attal has done the evil deed with Aisha, and she committed fahisha with him, the good believers, they say, Subhanaka ma yakunu lana an natakallama bihadha. They say, oh Allah, glorify to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not befitting for us to speak like this. We have no evidence of this. We will not speak it, we will not say it, we will not even speak it. Let alone pass it on others. We will not speak it at all. And then in that context, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, good words are for good people. And good people only bring out some good words. Okay? And evil people, the hypocrites, and how they spread the rumors, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, when you handle it with your tongues, meaning without even thinking. You hear it, you normally hear it with your ears, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you hear it with your tongue, and you spread it with your tongue, meaning that's so quick that it doesn't have a chance to go through your ears. It's like from the tongue directly out. You know, you're so quick to spread it. Right? So al-khabithun, evil, corrupted people, they naturally will bring out all evil, corrupted things. But also this is relevant to what we are saying here. If you are good at the heart, make sure that you bring good words. And if you say good words, it will affect the heart as well in this good way as well. Right? Let me finish this hadith because we're taking a little bit longer than we should. So basically, the Prophet says here, don't say, had I done such and such would have happened, but say, Qadar Allah wa ma sha'a fa'al. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has passed His decree, and He will goes. He is powerful, no one can stop His will. Right? Or is narrated, Qadar Allah wa ma sha'a fa'al. So in those scenarios, you could either say, Qadar Allah wa ma sha'a fa'al, or Qadar Allahi wa ma sha'a fa'al, meaning this is the Qadar of Allah, and Allah does what He pleases. Or you could say Qadar Allahu, Allah has passed His decree, and He does what He pleases. So it is documented with these two harakat, either Qadar Allah with shadda, or Qadar Allahu with fatha. Yes. Ibn Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayhi says, وَوَاللَّهِ لَوْ أَنَّنَا سِرْنَا عَلَى هَذَا الْحَدِيث لَاسْتَرَحْنَا كَثِيرًا. He says, by Allah, if we work according to this hadith, if we apply this hadith in our life, we will find a great deal of comfort, and we will have peace in our lives. Lakin, he said, however, what you'll find us doing, many of us, he says, either they will neglect the first part of the hadith. They will not have hirs upon that which is beneficial to them. لا يحرص على ما ينفعهم. So they will be wasting their days in something that is non-beneficial, or even worse sometimes, something that is harmful. ثانيا, second thing, إذا قدر أنه اجتهد في أمر ينفعه ثم فات الأمر ولم يكن على ما توقع تجده يندم. Second thing is, if he focuses his mind on something that's beneficial, but things don't work out, you find them consumed with regret and remorse and sadness. Right? And because of that, he would be saying, I wish I did this and I wish I did that. Right? And that is all bad. And what it does to the person, it prevents them from developing that zeal and that morale that we were talking about in explaining the two things Ibn Qayyim spoke about. Yeah. Final point here, inshallah, and we will conclude with that. How can we use Qadar to excuse ourselves for sins? Because what we are saying here in this hadith, when we do something wrong, we say Qadar Allah. You know, so if we are approving of this methodology, then how can we blame anyone for saying that I am doing this evil thing because it's the Qadar of Allah?
Because
yes, Salim.
It's because previously you said that we all have choices, but we don't have free choices. We're not, we have choices within limits within our last test. So with that being said, I'm guessing that when we make a sin, we have a choice within that test, that realms.
No, but can then the person say, okay, it was the Qadr of Allah, even the choices I made within that parameter was also decreed by Allah, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So now can he use the Qadr of Allah to say, who's to blame me? Because whatever Allah decrees, and he decreed this sin on me, whatever Allah decrees goes. And who am I to defy Allah in this Qadr? Said Wasim.
Allah has given him the choice to choose between right and wrong, and hence he's chosen what's wrong.
Yeah, so we said that, and which is not too far away from what we said, Salim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did give you choice, and you can feel it. You know, when you are about to do something wrong, when you're about to do something righteous, you can feel that you have the choice, and everybody can feel that. You don't feel compelled to do it either, and therefore you do have choice. But for the full answer, what we say, the use of the Qadar, depending on the context, can be approved of, and depending on the context can be disapproved of. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did say in the Quran, in Surah Al-An'am, for example, verses 106 and 107. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet, اتبع ما أوحي إليك من ربك. Follow that which was revealed to you from your Lord. لا إله إلا هو, none worthy of worship but him. وأعرض عن المشركين, and turn away from the polytheists. And then look at this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا أَشْرَكُوا. If Allah willed, had Allah willed, they wouldn't have committed shirk. So this is being said to what? To the Prophet ﷺ. This is being said to the Prophet in what context though? To comfort him, to tell him, look, these peoples cannot do anything that is outside the knowledge of Allah or outside the control of Allah. They are doing it because Allah allowed it. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ, if Allah willed that they will not commit shirk, they wouldn't have committed shirk. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about context, and obviously he's approving the use of, he's speaking about the Qadar, and therefore he's approving the use of the Qadar, in this context. Right? However, we also find in the same surah, in verse 148, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا, the polytheists would say, لو شاء الله, had Allah willed, لو شاء الله, ما أشركنا ولا آباؤنا ولا حرمنا من شيء. We wouldn't have committed shirk, not us, not our parents, and we wouldn't have prohibited anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made lawful. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كذلك كذب الذين من قبلهم حتى ذاقوا بأسنا. This is the same way in which the previous people disbelieved, by the use of the Qadar, not understanding that Qadar cannot be used as an excuse for sins. طيب. من قبلهم حتى ذاقوا بأسنا, until our torment and our torture came to them. طيب. However, Ibn Taymiyyah says, الاحتجاج بالقدر في موضعه لا بأس به. To use the Qadar in the right context, meaning after you have repented, after you have learned the lessons, after you have made decisions on what you're going to do going forwards from here, right? Then no problem. You say, okay, in fact, this is good, because it will make you see things in a positive light. As a believer, if you know that everything that you've gone through is good for you, So believing that it was qadar, it was actually good. Okay? Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi says, even Allah decreeing that you will fall into a sin, if you believe that it is the qadar of Allah, it is healthy for your mindset. You know, because you will continue to believe that you are still being guided. You have always been guided, and that you fall into that sin was necessary for you to make certain realizations. So Allah decreed that you will fall into that sin for those realizations, for you, for that understanding to be developed, knowing that you are going to grow through that mistake. So denying you that mistake was actually good for you or bad?
Good for you.
No. If Allah denied you that opportunity, it wouldn't have been good for you.
No.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you that opportunity. You took an attempt on something, you sinned, you failed, right? But then through it, you learned something about yourself, something about your heart, something about shaitan, something about the dunya, something about you learned something
So
basically.
you seek the help of Allah next time even more.
Yeah, and you will be probably more clinging to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he comments about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that Adam would eat from the tree and then come out of Jannah, and he listed the many benefits that came out of this. You know, he says that the ranks and the pleasure of Jannah, when you are in it, this is one of the benefits, is not like when you have missed it, gone out of it, felt that you might lose it, and then you come back to it again. The pleasure will be many times fold. You know, thinking that now you've got something that you almost missed out on, you almost lost. So it was beneficial. So the way you would benefit from this sin is clinging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even more and thinking well of Him. Right? So thinking of the sin being decreed upon you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be beneficial to the mindset of the believer, that it will allow you to keep on trying things. You will keep on trying things. You will keep on doing your best. If that's not how you feel, if you go through a calamity or a hardship or a mistake, and then you feel that it is going to be dependent on you, you will not try anything. You will not try things again. But you know now, nothing is left on you. Allah is planning things for you. Right? Even when it seems like you are doing things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding you to certain ways so that you can learn here, learn there, try this, try that. You know, that will make you try more or try less. So that will improve your mindset. You'll keep trying until you get it done eventually. One last incident I will ask you about it. The Prophet ﷺ came one night into the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, his cousin, and the wife of his daughter. And then he says to them, أَلَا تَقُومَانِ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ Do you not pray night prayers? How come you are asleep? Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, he said, Ya Rasulullah, إِنَّ أَنفُسَنَا بِيَدِ اللَّهِ Our souls are in the hands of Allah. You know, لَوْ شَاءَ أَن نَقُومْ لَقُمْنَا If Allah willed for us to rise, we would have risen. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ left his house and he was clapping his hands. In one narration, he was clapping his eyes and he says, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا And man was the most fierce in dispute. You know, he just disputes and argues. Right? Now, Ali ibn Talib, what did he say? Ali ibn Talib, when the Prophet told him, why didn't you wake up for night prayer? If Allah willed, so he blamed it on the will of Allah. So now I'm asking you, is this a legitimate way of using the Qadar or a blameworthy use of the Qadar? Blameworthy. Effort.
The choice is there to get
some ulama did say that. But one thing you learn from Ibn Uthaymeen, he always tried to get the best of understanding, the best of way of thinking when it comes to the Sahaba and the prophets of Allah. He would always try to see if there's a way of interpreting things in a positive way. You know, so he says, no, this is actually a correct way of using the Qadar, because he was in a state of sleep. And a person who's sleeping, what can they do? There's nothing they can do. And when there's nothing you can do, you are allowed to use the Qadar and blame it on the Qadar of Allah.
You said that. So when you said the sleep, the key word for me was sleep. When you said sleep,
he is sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, a sleeping person is totally in the hands of Allah. You know, he's left things in the hands of Allah, and Allah did not decree it for whatever wisdoms. But his use of the Qadar. So what he's being blamed for is for being argumentative,
Subhanallah.
rather than trying his best, getting up, take wudu and that, you know.
Even more so that the Prophet did not rebuke him.
Yes, yeah. He quoted this ayah of Surah Al-Kahf. He said, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. Insan is the most fierce in argumentation, you know, when it comes to arguing. So he's blaming him for that, but he's not blaming him for the use of the will of the Qadar. And in all likelihood, if he had the wrong understanding of the Qadar, that incident wouldn't have finished there.
No.
The Prophet would have clarified the matter. He would have said, no, don't say that, it's wrong. So this is something also you learn about Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh, how to deal with the text when it comes to the noble Sahaba, the Prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He tried his best. And other scholars, they did say that this is the wrong way of using the Qadar, blaming the Qadar. But he says, no, this is احتجاج في محله. And you all know the incident of when the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that Adam alayhi salam and Musa, they argued in the world of spirits. You remember this hadith? And the Prophet ﷺ, he says that Musa alayhi salam blamed Adam. He said, Ya Adam, you put us on all this trouble. Why did you have to eat from the tree when you were forbidden from it? If it wasn't for you, we would have been all of us in Jannah, etc. Then he says to him, Musa, أنت الذي كرمك الله برسالاته وبكلامه. He says, you are the one who Allah has favored you with the message, the prophethood, and with his speech. He spoke to you directly. You should know better. He says, are you blaming me for something that Allah has decreed upon me 50,000 years or 70,000 years before Allah created the creation? Right? And then, so he blamed it on what? Decree, Qadar. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, فَحَاجَّ آدَمُ مُوسَى فَحَاجَّ آدَمُ مُوسَى فَحَاجَّ آدَمُ. So Adam, he beat Musa alayhi salam in this argument. He won the argument. Okay? Because he won, he blamed on the Qadar. Why? Because Adam was okay to use it because he repented, he rectified his affairs, Allah forgave him, Allah elevated him. So for him, it's okay in this context to say blame his sin in the Qadar. Right? But Iblis alayhi na'atullah, now, can he blame things on the Qadar? No. He had free choice, and that choice he made it, and he hasn't repented. If he repented, it would have been useful, good for him to use it on the Qadar, but he hasn't repented. So it's good for Adam to use it, but it's not good for Iblis to use it. All right, we've come to the end of today's class. We've elaborated quite extensively in this, but I'm sure you could see the importance of this. You know, this realization. This hadith gives us the answer to when somebody is plagued with low self-esteem. How can you do it? No matter how much clarity about the love of Allah or Jannah or Nar or this, you feel yourself unable to move. This is where the problem is, and the answer to this lies in this hadith. So if you have any questions, any comments,
should I have a question
from the brothers watching online? If you have questions, please go ahead. We're about to conclude the class. Yes.
So, for example, now, see when you say something is good for you, is this something, for example, something like going to learn Arabic? Yeah, so that's good for you in grand scale of things. So you take the tariq of going, you take the path to going to learn, travel to a different country, and something happens to you. You say you want to stay there for 12 months. Or something happens to you and you kind of like have to return. Would that be going back on what you initially wanted to do? Something happened to you that was an obstacle, right? Yeah. So the hadith is saying that persist, don't give up, because you've already identified that this is the best thing for you. You've researched the matter and you found that this is the best way forward. You need to learn Arabic. Right? Things are bound to happen because, as Ibn Qayyim says, if Allah paved the path for everyone that tries righteousness, then how can we distinguish who's more serious than that? So it's true, it is natural that anyone who goes in this path, they will have to be tested, and deficiencies, hurdles, obstacles will occur. Only the serious people will last, and that is what differentiates the scholars from the non-scholars. So the scholars are the ones who persisted and continued. They identified that this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And then the obstacle that came at the beginning of the path didn't destroy their energy or
didn't make them lose their focus. They kept at it until they continued, until they succeeded. So one should continue until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He realizes that you are doing your best, Allah intervenes and adds more to your efforts.
And obviously, you seek help from Allah, from actually trying to identify if that thing is good for you.
And sometimes, subhanAllah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the path easy for the person at first attempt, Allah might know that this person will become arrogant, thinking that he's got it all figured out, and he's smart, he's intelligent, and he's going to become plagued with arrogance, and that is a disease that is so difficult to remove from the heart. And the ulama, they say, subhanAllah, no one has caused more damage to this ummah than scholars who have diseases in their hearts.
Of arrogance.
Yeah, arrogance or otherwise. Arrogance, the love of dunya, or whatever it is. When you have knowledge, Islamic knowledge, but you are diseased in the heart with any disease, no one can cause more damage in this dunya than those individuals. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maybe He wants to show this person that no matter how many times you try, because you have not sincerely made dua with desperation. So you keep failing until you learn, what, things are beyond you. And then you end up praying at night, raising your hands with tears, begging Allah to give you this, knowing that it's either this or destruction. It's either this with total loss or total loss. When you speak like this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant it to you, when you eventually succeed, you will know that it wasn't due to your efforts, it wasn't due to your intelligence, and therefore it will be more likely that you will become a person who acquired knowledge and also healthy in your heart, humble, sincere, and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa iyyakum inshallah. طيب, we'll stop here if there's no questions. If you have a question. All right then. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Apologies if this